It almost has the feel of like an arms race and not wanting to unilaterally disarm. I see myself as a classical liberal. I'm a lot closer to the James Lindsay on that spectrum you presented. And I love the ideals of classical liberalism, but it feels like an undefensible position a lot of times. Like, it's almost like your ideas are so good, but you're not, almost by definition, it's hard to defend them because like Popper's paradox of tolerance kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's how I feel too. My instincts are very classically liberal. Again, I was a progressive for most of my life. That's sort of who I am innately, right? Like I think like, based on like, big five personality scores or whatever, any algorithm would predict that I would be on the left. I sort of see it as the same problem with like open borders libertarians, right? It's like you're inviting a bunch of people in who we know statistically are going to vote for more statism,
Mm-hmm.
unless libertarianism is just a suicide pact, right? Where it's like we are compelled by our deontological ethics to do things that will inevitably result in the destruction of the very thing that we want. That can't be the answer. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's not serious. And I see, sort of the same problem with classical liberalism, right? It's great as long as you can keep it. But, the way I sort of see this in biological terms is that Marxism is essentially a disease that is very well adapted to eat classical liberalism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, authoritarian rightism, up to and including fascism, is a sort of immune response to this that often becomes autoimmune, right? And becomes, as almost as damaging as the thing it was reacting to, right? That's what happened in Weimar Germany, right? I remember I've read interviews with a lot of Nazi soldiers where they were asked, like, who do you see as your primary enemy, right? Like, why do you fight for Germany? Some of them did say Jews, but most of them said communists, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, obviously, it resulted in massively negative outcomes for Germany, right? Forget, all the damage that was done to everybody else. It was terrible for Germany. And I think that if we want to prevent those kinds of, the fact is people will just not tolerate communism and like this kind of like moral craziness and sexual degeneracy. They won't tolerate that endlessly. They just won't. We know that, right? And if we want to prevent a completely uncontrolled and hugely destructive reaction like we saw in Germany, right? We have to, more moderate people have to address these things, and so like yes, I agree with you that like classical liberalism kind of lacks an immune system, right? And like Popper correctly addressed this. And I think that frankly, if we want to preserve as much of classical liberalism as possible, then there needs to be more or less all-out war waged against communism, right? It needs to be aggressively, even in ways that might make liberals uncomfortable. I promise it's better than what will happen if you don't do this, right? Communism needs to be aggressively, even authoritarianly, sort of purged from the academy, right? The media ecosystem that amplifies these things needs to be crushed. It's kind of crushing itself already. It's kind of, it's losing a lot of relevance. But you have to take the paradox of tolerance seriously and crush the ideology that will destroy classical liberalism completely, or something that you really don't like will do it for you.